to start in Isaiah. We're going to John chapter 7. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but we're going to start in Isaiah chapter 12. You know how things stick with you? I had a pastor once, and I told him that Isaiah was my favorite book, and he kind of gave me mild guff as a kindly, gentle pastor can do. Oh, you shouldn't have a favorite book. You should love them all. And so for like years, I was afraid to say I had a favorite book. But I'm a pastor now. My favorite book is Isaiah. I like Isaiah. But it still sticks with me, I think, because of that. All right. Isaiah chapter 12. We're going to read the whole thing. Roger knows why. There's 6 verses. All right. And in that day thou shalt say, O Yahweh, I will praise thee. Though thou wast angry with me, thine anger is turned away, and thou comforted me. Now this is interesting. Verse 2. It says in the King James, Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid, for the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He also is become my salvation. So people with other versions than King James, first word, behold, what does it say? What's the next word after behold? El. The word is El. What does yours say?
C, L.
El. That's El. And then, so behold, El, short for Elohim, is my salvation. I will trust and be not afraid. And then it says the Lord Jehovah in weird letters. What do you guys have?
For Yah.
So this is interesting. It's Yah. The first, the Lord in the King James is Yah. And I say Yah a lot in my videos, and people are like, where does it say Yah in the Bible? I don't know where it says Yah. This is one of the places that it says Yah in the Bible, and all they need is a Strong's Concordance to find this, that it says Yah. So the first, the Lord there is Yah, not Yahweh. And then the second one where it says Jehovah in the King James, that's Yahweh, or Yahweh, or Yahuwah, however you want to say it. Yud Hey Vav Hey, YHWH, or, whatever. It's one of the few times in the Bible where they transliterated Yahweh. And when they wrote Jehovah, the letter J wasn't pronounced like a J, it was pronounced like a Y, like the German. So Yehovah, or Yahovah, or Yahweh, or whatever. But that's just kind of interesting there. We have El, we have Yah, and we have Yahweh all in there. So let me read it again. Behold, El is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For Yahweh is my strength and my song. He also is become my salvation. This is why we're here, verse 3. Therefore with joy shall ye draw water out of the wells of salvation. And in that day shall ye say, Praise Yahweh, call upon his name, declare his doings among the people, make mention of his name, make mention that his name is exalted. Sing unto Yahweh, for he hath done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, thou inhabitant of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in the midst of thee. One more time before we turn away, because we might not turn back here, but I want you to remember it. Look at verse 3. Therefore with joy shall you draw water out of the wells of salvation. All right, let us please turn to John chapter 7. I have a ribbon there. Just to play catch up a little bit. Key points that are going to go on today. John chapter 7, verse 2. It says, For now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand. We've talked about that a great deal. But what feast is at hand? Sukkot, right? So time, place right there. And then look down at verse 8. Yeshua speaking, he says, Go ye up unto this feast. Why does he say, and why do we always read when they're talking about going to Jerusalem, go up? It's on a hill. It's also upstream of the Jordan a lot of times, right? So They just used it as up, and I think there was probably some bit of honorific in that too, right? Go up to Jerusalem. And so go, verse 8, go ye, so Yeshua's talking to his disciples, go y'all go on up to this feast. I go not yet up to the feast, for my time is not yet full come. It's not time for Yeshua to go. Verse 9, when he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee. So he hung out there, everybody else takes off to go to the feast. And now go to verse 28, please. Then cried Yeshua. Okay, yeah. Then I thought, wow, that's where we're going today. No. Then cried Yeshua in the temple as he taught, saying, ye both know me, and ye know whence I am, and I am not come of myself, but he that sent me is true, whom ye know not. But I know him, for I am from him, and he has sent me. And then verse 30, and then they sought to take him. And so what's setting the stage here is it's Sukkot. We're in Jerusalem where we're about to read today. And when it says the Jews, they sought to take him, it means the leadership, right? The Sanhedrin, if you will. They're starting to have it up to here with this guy Yeshua, and so they want to take him. And then we read last week that nobody laid hands on him because it wasn't time yet. Okay, so let us go. And then it says, verse 32, they hear people talking about him like, wow, this guy's very Christ-like, very anointed of Yah-like. And so they're getting even more agitated. Verse 32, the Pharisees and the chief priests sent officers to take him. And that's where we ended up last time. So now we are in verse 33. Then said Yeshua unto them. All right, who's he talking to? Look at the verse beforehand. He's talking to the people who are seeking to take him. He's talking to the, if you will, the church leadership, the temple leadership, right? The Pharisees and that kind of thing. So then Yeshua says to them, yet a little while I am with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. Ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. Y'all are going to seek me, but you're not going to be able to find me. Is this condemnation?
Sort of.
This is condemnation. He is telling these people, you're going to look for me, you're not going to be able to find me. He knows where he's going. He's talking about returning to the Father. He's saying, you're going to seek me and you're not going to find me. Right, now he knows the full text of that. They're not really sure, as we can see here. And then the Pharisees, you shall seek me and not find me, and where I am, thither you cannot come. Where's he going? He's going to be with the Father. He's saying, and y'all can't come there. You're going to look for me, you're not going to find me, and where I'm going, y'all aren't going to go there. That's pretty strong condemnation. And then said the Jews among themselves, and again, when we read Jews here, it's talking about the leadership, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? That's what it says in mine. What does it say in somebody else's? Read that whole. Will he go to the Greeks?
Dispersion among the Greeks and to teach the Greeks.
So here's the interesting thing. This came down to us, this book of John, in Greek, right? It was written in Greek. It's been translated into English. So the word there is, will he go unto the Hellenists, which I'm not going to get into a big history of why Greek is called Hellen, but the Hellenic kingdom or whatever. But it's Hellenes, Greeks, and that means, in context, Gentiles or Goyim. It's not Jews. There's another word that sounds like Hellenes, that's Hellenistes, almost like Hellenistas in Spanish, right? And that means, that's translated the very few times, like 2 or 3 times in the word, Grecians, not Greeks. And Grecians, when you read it in the King James, that's Hellenized Jews, or better said, Hellenized Israelites. Those were people of the Jewish origin, the Israelite origin, race, whatever, if you will, that were raised in Greek-type settings and grew up speaking Greek, acting Greek, but they are, in fact, Jews, right? And that's a different word. That's Grecian. So when he says, is he going to go, they're saying, is he going to the Goyim? But it's interesting here. Look at how they phrase that. Let me get back there. Then said they amongst themselves, whither will he go that we can't find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles. So when it says, will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles? The dispersed are the Hellenistas, if you will. That's my phraseology of it, because it's too hard for me to say it in Greek. But the believer, the Israelite believers, the lost sheep, if you will, that are up there in Greek land, that are around the Gentiles. But then they say, so will he go to basically the Israelites up there and teach the Goyim, the non-Israelites, many of whom are sitting here today, by race, right? So it's kind of interesting that they're kind of seeing what's about to happen a little bit future of this. What manner of saying is this, that he said, ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come? What's he talking about when he says he's going to go somewhere, we're going to look for him and can't find him, and where he's going, we can't come? They're confused by that. He threw like a monkey wrench into their mental works, and now their brain is like going over and over and over. They're like, wait, this doesn't even make sense. We can find him anywhere. Remember how they chased Paul a little bit later, and they chase him everywhere, no matter where he goes, there they show up. They're like, what is he talking about? Keep your finger here, because we're going to compare and contrast that. Hey, y'all are going to seek me, and you're not going to find me. And where I'm going, you can't come. Compare and contrast that. Let's go to Matthew 7. Matthew chapter 7. Because Yeshua just said that here. What did he say in Matthew 7? I think it's verse 7. 7:7. Yep. Matthew 7:7. This is Yeshua speaking again, different context. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be opened. So here's Yeshua saying, hey, everybody who seeks finds. Ask, it will be given to you. Knock, I'm going to answer it. Right? Seek me and you'll find me. And then yet over here, we're back in John again. He told them, ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, you cannot go. That sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Except you got to understand who he's talking to and who he was talking to before. Y'all seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you. You can seek me all day long, you're not going to find me. Because he knows they're not truly going to seek him. Right? They could say they're seeking him. They're talking about, we're going to go over here and we'll send people out there and we'll send a scouting party out there. We're seeking him. But he's like, no, you're not truly seeking me, and you're not going to find me, and you're not going to end up where I'm going, even though you think you're all hoity-toity and you're all that in the religious scheme of things. So there's that. All right, 37. What feast are we at right now?
Sukkot.
All right. In the last day, that great day of the feast of the Moedim, the appointed time, Yeshua stood and he cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believes on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly is Yeshua's belly. It's not the guy who's believing. Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. But this spake he of the Spirit, the Ruach, which they that believe on him should receive, for the Holy Ghost was not yet given, because that Yeshua was not yet glorified. I think it says esteemed in the scriptures. So let's put this a little bit more in context, because this was the main thrust of where we're going today, what he said. In the last day, in the great day of the feast. What day is that? It's the 8th day of Sukkot, right? And so Sukkot, we dwell in booths, we dwell in tents or whatever for 7 days. And then the 8th day, we're not dwelling in tents anymore, right? We packed up the night before, we're all back, and it's the 8th day of the feast. But what do we do on the 8th day? We're not going back to Leviticus and all, but what do we do on the 8th day? It's a holy convocation, a set-apart gathering of the believers, right? It's a big doings. There's no work being done. It's the culmination, and quite frankly, Sukkot is a happy Moedim, right? It's party time. It's fun, and there's building going on throughout the the celebration, if you will, of this appointed time. And what is Sukkot in remembrance of? Why is it stated that we do Sukkot, that we observe Sukkot? I remember. Because he brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, or mighty arm and an outstretched hand. I always get that mixed up. But he brought us out of Egypt. And during Sukkot, they read the Torah every day, beginning to end, and they finish reading Torah on the great eighth day, right? And so they do the whole reading of the Torah for the 8 days. And what are they? I'll just get to it. They are thinking about that time spent in the wilderness, right? We read at wilderness, it's the desert, right? That time spent in the desert. And that's firmly in their mind. They're living in tents just like they did back then. I mean, they were, by their terms, citified people. They had houses in the country, and they had houses in Jerusalem and stuff. I mean, they had comforts, and so they're living in these tents, this rudimentary thing. They're reading about Torah every night. They're reading Torah every night, and they're thinking about that time in the desert. And do you remember, of course you do, because we read it every week, the murmuring that goes on? Oh, why did you bring us out here to die of thirst when we could have had lots of water in each? I mean, they're thinking about that, right? Hold on a second. Let's go to Numbers chapter 20, which they would have read during this time. Numbers chapter 20. Verse 7. It's a lot of sevens today. Spiritual completion. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, you and Aaron your brother, and what to the rock? Speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water. And thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So shalt thou give the congregation and their beasts to drink, because they were all whining and moaning. And Moshe took the rod from before Yahweh, as he commanded him. And Moshe and Aaron gathered together the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, this is why I think Moshe could probably use some anger management classes. Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rod twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beast also. What did Yahweh tell him to do to the rock? Speak to the rock. And what did Moshe do to the rock? Not once, but twice. That's why he did not go to the promised land right there. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron, because you believe me not, blah, blah, and it goes on. And I don't mean to minimize, but, blah, blah. It continues. So, water's a big deal. This is setting the context for Yeshua standing up and saying what he did. What they would do during Sukkot is it was a big ceremonial thing. The priests would take a little hike, and they would go from the temple and all their regalia, and they would go down to the pool of Siloam, right? And they would get this big golden vase, pitcher, whatever, of water from the pool of Siloam, and then they would hoof it back up, because it's down to the pool, back up to the temple, and then they had this ceremony. Oh, and while they were doing that, people are singing, chanting, saying something. Do y'all know what they were saying? They were saying, therefore with joy shall you draw water out of the wells of salvation, what we read in Isaiah. It was just something they did, right? And they would be singing that. Now this is the 8th day they're doing that. Everyone's happy. It's like the culmination of everything. And this is happening. They bring this water up. And so the water is representing salvation, right? And they don't have quite all the deep understandings yet, but they know that, and they're singing that. And then they would pour the water out on the west side of the altar, and at the same time they'd pour wine out on the east side of the altar. And it's this big ceremonial thing that the people would see, and they would sing and they would dance. And this is going on. Everyone's focused on water, Everyone kind of half knows that the water represents salvation. Everybody is familiar with the story of Moshe and the water and the rock, right? We know about the rock. And so that's all in their mind. And during this solemn ceremony, out there in the crowd stands this guy, and he yells because it says, I think we're in what, verse 37, he cried. Doesn't say he says. He cried. He's not weeping. He says it loudly during the ceremony. It's like, here we are pouring the water, here we are pouring the wine, yumma yumma yumma. And he stands up and has the gumption, this upstart, to say, if you're thirsty, come to me and drink. Like, everything's going on up there, and he's down here, and he goes, if y'all are thirsty, come to me and drink. And then he doesn't stop. He says, he that believes on me, as the scriptures have said, out of his belly, out of my belly, basically is what he's saying, shall flow rivers of living water. Wow! Think about how that's going over. And the people have already been abuzz about him. Remember, they're saying, man, is this the Messiah? Could the Messiah do anything greater than this guy's already done? Wow, he's amazing what he's doing. And now he stands up and says that right at the time that everybody is thinking about the water. Is Yeshua rude? Is that an adjective we can apply to our Messiah? Is he rude? I don't know that it is, because rude means you're wrong, right? If you're rude, what you're doing is wrong. That's Pastor Joe's definition. He's blunt. This ceremony that they're doing, that everyone's all in awe of, do y'all know where that is in Torah, that it says to do that? It's not in Torah. There is nowhere that we are commanded to go down to Siloam with the procession, speaking from Isaiah, because how would they have put that in Torah, and then come back up and pour the water out on this side, the water out on the west side, the wine out on the east side, and have this big hubbubaloo about it. Where does it say to do that in Torah? It doesn't. It's a tradition of man. He's not interrupting Torah. He's not interrupting Yah's word. He's interrupting the traditions of man, which elsewhere he says the way you do the traditions of man makes vain the word of Yah. Right? So to his mind, he's just putting them in the place where they belong. You guys are doing this religion stuff, and it doesn't say, my father did not say to do that. Let's look at John chapter 4. Because remember, he says, let me just read it real quick to you again. He stands up and he shouts, basically, if anyone thirsts, let him come unto me and drink. He that believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of my belly shall flow rivers of living water. Go to John 4. Just back a little bit. Like the woman at the well, I was waiting. Remember that song? I like that song. Okay, I'll just start 4:4. Yeshua, he comes through Galilee, he's got to go through Samaria. He didn't have to, but he did. Then he comes to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel of ground where Jacob gave to his son Joseph. We covered this before, and now Jacob's well was there. Yeshua, therefore, was tired with his journey. He sat down on the well. It was about the 6th hour. What time is that? Noon. It's about noon. And here comes this woman of Samaria to draw water. Why was she coming to draw water at noon when all the other women did it in the middle of the day? I mean, in the beginning of the day? She's ashamed. She's kind of an outcast, that kind of thing. We went into that. Yeshua said unto her, give me a drink. For his disciples were gone away into the city to buy meat. And then said the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that you, being a Jew, a Judahite, how did she know he was a Judahite? It's the way he was dressed. It's tribal culture. All tribes look different. They have a look about them, and they are set apart. And so she could tell he was a Jew right off. How come that you, being a Jew, ask a drink of me, which is a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. And Yeshua answered and said unto her, Remember what he said in the temple? If anyone's thirsty, come to me, I'll give you living water. Look what he says to her. Yeshua answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that says to you, give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would have given you living water. Water of abundance that does not stop. And the woman said unto him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? And Yeshua answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinks of this water, the well water, shall thirst again. And whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up unto everlasting life. And the woman said unto her, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Do you see the same symbology? Do you remember when a few weeks ago we were talking about manna, and then he fed the people bread, miraculous bread, the loaves and the fishes, and it was manna, and now there's water, and in the desert, water and manna were really important things, and those things were covered during Sukkot, and people are thinking about those things during Sukkot, and so these things all happen in very close proximity to each other. And it reminds me of, how many people here have fasted other than on atonement? Right? So the first time I ever fasted was about 3 days. And some of you have heard the story, but some of you haven't. And I was just praying for more of the Father in my life during my fast. I was trying to get closer to the Father. I was a Christian at the time. I was not keeping Torah. And at some point in day 3, I was going out to take care of the goats. And man, I just got dropped to my knees. And I felt the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, pouring on me like a waterfall. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was under this awesome waterfall that was just pouring on me, and I was crying, and then I started speaking in tongues, and it was moving experience for me. And a couple days later, I'm at work, and I had a friend who was a pretty, what I call, hardcore Christian, and I was telling him in not so many details, and he goes, oh yeah, that water that you just never thirst again after you have it. And I said, yeah, I know that phrase, I know that verse in the Word, but man, I was so thirsty, I didn't want that waterfall to stop pouring on me and in me. You know, I just wanted it more. And so it doesn't mean that you're not going to thirst more, if you will, for righteousness. It just means you won't need anything else, right? You'll never thirst again. Simple things won't matter anymore. Thirsting for righteousness, right? How many people here thirst for righteousness? Do you really? Right? You know, right? Because I asked myself that when I was thinking about this. Blessed are those that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. That's in Matthew 5:6. If you thirst after righteousness, you will be filled. That's the same thought process that Yeshua was talking about when he said, if you seek me, you will find me. If you knock, it will be opened unto you. Is there anybody here righteous? Anyone? Not one? None of us are righteous without Yeshua, right? Without him, none of us are righteous. We've all broken Torah. We're all going to break Torah again in the future. And so without him, we're doomed. But with him, if we thirst for righteousness, if we thirst for, metaphorically speaking, Yeshua, we'll never thirst again. He's got us. We're covered. We're good to go. And so we end with some questions. Are you thirsty? I mean, are you thirsting after righteousness? Are you thirsting after Yeshua? Or is it just check the Shabbat block, we're good to go? And if you're thirsting for righteousness, if you're thirsting through righteousness through Yeshua, where are you going? What well are you going to draw your water? Where are you getting this water? How are you getting closer? We know it's Yeshua, right? Because he said, drink from me and you'll never thirst again. Okay, so we got that. Okay, it's Yeshua. How are you getting that? How are you approaching? This is a rhetorical question. I'm not expecting people to raise their hands and answer it. But how are you going after Yeshua? How are you trying to get closer to him so that you never thirst again? He said, if anyone thirsts, let him come unto me and drink. I submit to you, we all need to do that more, with more quality and more often. Let's pray.